All right, welcome to our final feature match of the week for week 3, Cons of Tarkir League. And we got Matthias returning from a victory last week in his first feature match. Very impressive victory over a league winner, Zach. And he's up against another league winner here. Dan A beat down Bringer, also Con of Chess Guy since last week. So what's going on over there, Duncan? Good start, at
So
least.
Dan's kept a 2-land hand, which we'll see in just a moment how well that works out for him. Okay, drew the third land, third color, but still doesn't have the black for several of the cards in his hand. So this was a Kiru Spell Snatcher that just went face down. He's also got Ruthless Ripper that can be played as a morph, a Sultai Scavenger, the black Delve Flyer, Sultai Flare, the 3/4 green card that gives you life when it or other things die. He's got a Bitter Revelation and a Kill Shot. So now that he's played the Ruthless Ripper here, the Kill Shot's the only playable card left in his hand, but any land turns on Sultai Flare. Well, he's got a Jungle Hall here, so he's got Sultai Flare next turn. Uh, and or well, any number of other things actually. His hand's pretty go now.
Yeah, and I think Dan's pretty happy to trade this up. Yeah, Dan's pretty happy
Yeah.
to trade for a Kieran. I guess Matthias is like, what's the worst thing that can happen? I guess it's like, well, for that mana, that's about the worst, I guess. So we
Yeah.
see in hand Bitter Revelation is going to be cast. He also has Smite the Monstrous, Disown Ancestor, Necropolis Fiend in hand, and then Siege Rhino. Looking at a Siege Rhino here, which we saw do some good work last week. So he's
That's going to be cast shortly.
choosing between a Raider Spoils and a fifth land, and he's gone for the fifth land here. Just wanted to hit
Sixth
his
land, I
cards.
think.
Yeah, sick. Oh, yeah,
Yeah.
truth. Okay, very good.
Hmm. I guess with the Necropolis Fiend, then you want to get that down off mana as much as possible to preserve the graveyard.
Yeah, Raider Spoils is not looking amazing on this current state anyway. So I think I'd rather just hit my land drops. Like we see Dan coming out of a what could have been a mana trouble because like missing your third land drop is almost like a death knell in this format. Even fourth mana sometimes like not hitting that is just death. Like you really want to get your at least 5 lands in play so you can start flipping up your morphs. It's not like LCI where you could have a super compact deck and you miss your third land drop, but you could still play 2 drops for a couple of turns and you don't really you don't fall behind for doing that in a lot of current formats. But
Yeah.
you really don't want to
Ooh.
keep two landers in this set. Like I know I am extraordinarily hesitant to keep 2 landers. What's he got here from the
So
bitter?
so he actually had a fifth land in hand already, but chose to fire off the Bitter Revelation first. He took yet another land and Suspension Field, letting land
Okay.
and Feat of Resistance go away. So next turn he can Suspension Field the Siege Rhino,
Yeah, it's going to be pretty good.
or just wait and kill shot it, I guess.
And this Smite the Monstrous looking a little awkward right now. Looks like Dan says, I don't need a
Yeah,
suspension field. That I'll just trade. I'm good.
yeah,
I'm gonna gain 4 life. Or, I mean, yeah. All right. So we do get the Grim Haruspex turned up here to get the nice little card draw. Very very nice effect there, and especially after the Bitter Revelation, he's getting close to just dropping that Necropolis Fiend for real cheap.
yeah. Although that is also itself vulnerable to Suspension Field, so good on Dan for preserving that.
Yeah. So it looks like we're just going to. He's Yeah, he's considering playing the Necropolis Fiend and potentially being able to smite the monstrous, but he's just gonna cast it, tap all his mana. He doesn't care about killing that 4/2 right now. He can kill it for free with
Yeah,
with the Necropolis Fiend. No, if he untaps with it, but that's a big if. As we know,
yeah,
that's going away. And like I mentioned before, that suspension field is not leaving the battlefield. It's not like current limited formats where we get modal cards that can sometimes blow up an enchantment while doing a host of other things. So the rare Defiant Strike that actually wins combat on a non-prowess creature, like very rare, but
Yeah,
We
but
see
in
it.
this case, it worked out well, and
Worked
Dan's
out
just
perfect.
continuing to ride the Alpine Grizzlies. But Matthias has drawn some extra cards off of this with the Harvest specs.
Yeah, they're land cards though. He has the Smite the Monstrous
Mm,
and 2 lands. So probably just has to trade off, kill the other Grizzly, go to 10, and hope that he draws something to affect the board.
yeah. Dan still got the kill shot back, but his only other card in hand is Frontier Bivouac.
Okay, so that does create red mana if he's gonna need it for a card. Mardu Hateblade is not exactly what you want to see here. Better than a
Doesn't
land,
help
but not by
too
much.
much.
Better
Yeah,
than
it
a
doesn't help too
land.
much against. Ooh,
Oi,
helps even less
okay.
against a 5/5
A two turn,
flying
yeah, a 2 turn
creature.
clock here is a bit brutal. Yeah, no reason to put any counters on the armament core because there's a death touch on the other side. So yeah, it looks like the flood may be a bit too much here. Yeah, so he's drawn on Einak Bonkin, which, as we can see, will not stop a 5/5 flyer. So yeah, Dan making good use of his resources here. A very quick back and forth battle here. Both players playing pretty
Yeah,
quick and
there was a bit of jockeying for position. Then all of a sudden, just Dan went all Hulk smash.
yeah, and I mean the Defiant Strike was pretty big there. Like that was like it's rare that you see Defiant Strike cleanly win combat when you cast it on a creature that doesn't have prowess. When you cast on a creature that has prowess, it's +2/+1, which is really good. But it's rare that you just able to make it just kill a creature and draw a card. Like
Yeah, I don't think I don't. I'm not seeing any actual prowess in Dan's deck here. He is running 4 colors and not 5. There's no use for red mana.
okay,
So I guess it's just that Frontier Bivouac
yeah,
is just a 2 color land that doesn't gain you a life.
still good,
Still good.
still good. Yeah, so Matthias took a long look at the board. He's playing his Abzan deck. We saw a deck mostly like this last week. Heavy on the white and black, with a few green cards sprinkled in here. The Siege Rhino, the Pine Walker, the Abzan Guide, and 4 copies of our 6/7 Elephant. And yeah, this is very similar to what we saw him running last week. He has triple suspension field too for when that comes up. And
Yeah. Dan briefly boarded in Ugin's Nexus before taking it back out. I'm thinking
okay.
that was probably just a joke for us, but yeah.
Yeah, that's a card that like quite literally does nothing. Like there's not even any extra turn cards in this set. That's the funny part.
Yeah, I mean, maybe if you can play it and sacrifice it to something, but I don't even know if there's any of those in this set.
You can shatter your own against Nexus.
No, not playing red.
Yeah. I know in Fate Reforged there was actually take an extra turn spell at Mythic. It was like 8 and triple blue with Delve. Also
That
11
one,
mana total. But
Temporal Trespass, that one actually sees
yeah, Temporal
play in
Trespass.
Modern sometimes.
Yeah, yeah. So I mean,
Yeah.
I still don't think I would side in Ugin's Nexus even after seeing that card. It's so bad. Um,
Yeah.
yeah. Anyway, Matthias had 4 lands, but not really much to do with it. So he did say, "I'm going to mulligan to try and find something better." Um, just he had black cards and plains and forests, so not really conducive. Um, what's Dan got over there?
Well, these are all the lands here. He decided not to suspension field the Disowned Ancestor. So he did draw Tranquil Quo for turn 3 here. He's got Rattleclaw Mystic that's playable as a morph next turn and should help with his mana problems if it lives.
That'll do it.
Uh, Alabaster Kirin, Sultai Flayer, and Bitter Revelation, as well as a Treasure Cruise.
Yeah, Matthias is going to
And
have
now an out.
the mythical Siege Rhino on curve here.
There's an Alpine Grizzly in hand now as well, but I mean, as you saw, missed the 4th land drop now.
Yeah, and rest of Matthias' hand, we have the Kill Shot, Forest, and a Rakshasa's Secret, the mind drop
Hmm.
there. So
Yeah, at this point, Dan has some extra cards in hand. That's not his biggest problem.
nope. But Siege Rhinos could be a problem.
He's
I'm
doing some math on his mana here before flipping up the
Rattleclaw.
For yeah.
Yeah, so the Rattleclaw gives you back a total of 4 mana because it can also tap. Yeah, very cool card. All right, so it gets the suspension field here. Goodbye, Siege Rhino.
Yep. And then Sultai Flare for some defense.
Yeah, so no attacks yet for Matthias. Next turn he will have 6 mana for his big elephant here.
Dan's choosing from Alabaster Kirin, Bitter Revelation, Treasure Cruise, and Alpine Grizzly. I have to feel like he's keeping the cruise. I'm not sure what else exactly is going to happen.
Yeah, how have you liked the Rakshasa Secret? Do you come up against it a bunch, or have you come up against it in League, or
It's
do you want
I
on
came
it?
across it some in the early days
Okay.
when things were, the people just had a lot less playables, and it always felt a little underwhelming. Like every so often you'd get somebody's 2 best cards, and or like they were down to 2 cards in hand, and you'd hit them with this, and it would be like, oh, this is amazing, and most of the rest of the time it just wasn't that great. People also though didn't have nearly as much delve back then, so it wasn't possible to really craft your deck around that as a self mill
Yeah,
card.
you're also giving your opponent delve fuel though. Like it has happened that my opponent made me discard 2 cards, and I'm like, oh, my delve spell gets to come out next turn or something. All right, well, poor
Savage
elephant.
Punch, yeah, Savage Punch got turned up off of the Better Revelation,
Very nice.
so there goes that elephant.
And now we're at a similar situation as last game with just lands and a kill shot here. Just not what Matthias is looking for. He had that. He had that on curve siege rhino. He was ready to flip up his elephant this turn, but all his plans were foiled.
And
Looks like we're
using
cruising.
delving a few cards in order to cruise, yeah.
It
So
just
he's
feels so good.
leaving himself the ability to play more things this turn if he wants.
It just feels so good. It's a treasure cruise. I don't know why it feels better than your normal draw 3. It just feels good.
I mean, draw threes in general are usually reasonable, but
Yeah, I think that like modern day limited has basically gotten to the point where you're falling behind if you're doing that in a lot of games. Like the last few we've seen that have shown up at common, like 5 mana or 6 mana draw 3, have just been bad or not really playable. But maybe they need to knock it down a mana or something. I don't know.
that'd probably be too good there.
Yeah.
So Dan has a significant air force going on here.
Okay,
We've
what do you got?
got Sultai Scavenger, Alabaster Kirin, and Abzan Falconer that he's all debating how he wants to run these out.
But nothing to deal with our elephant here, aside from blocking,
Nothing to deal
perhaps.
with an elephant, but flyers have some amount of
Can he
cachet
get?
just all by themselves.
Can he get? Yeah,
And yeah,
it
he
looks like he can get
can.
all of them. Okay,
Yeah,
it's a scary
yeah, he had just
proposition
enough
here.
cards in graveyard.
All right, land is no good here for Matthias, so he's going to attack for 6. No, Dan says, well, take down 2 of my fly. I I kind of wanted to kill the falconer almost, but I guess killing the 2 ones that already have flying is of value here. Ooh, that's a nice one to draw in this state of the game.
Yes.
In this state of the game where both players are basically top decking here. All right, Ruthless Ripper off the top, not where you want to be against Herald of Enofenza.
Really, but I mean, do you take the opportunity to get in with Disowned Ancestor at this point?
Yeah,
I
he
guess you. I
says.
guess making it a little bigger isn't bad either.
Yeah, I mean this is looking good for Dan at this rate. I mean, also he's just gonna have a clock in the air at some point when he feels like
Yeah,
attacking with those two because the Herald is gaining flying as well. And he says, you know what, I'm gonna serve in with this guy. You know what?
my mana is mostly fixed.
Yeah, he can probably
Now he
cast
does
about
have
anything.
He does have an Alpine Grizzly in hand that he chose not to run out there. I didn't take a really good look at the pools here. Does Matthias have a sweeper of some kind, or is he just hedging his bets?
Didn't spot one, but he doesn't have a Dune Blast because I noted all of his green cards. He maybe has end hostilities, but I don't think so.
No.
He might just. I mean, he
Hmm.
might just be thinking this. Like it's embarrassing against this 3/7. I don't.
Hmm.
I can just wait until maybe that thing goes off the board somehow. Or so, what was this morph that he
Yeah.
just got going?
This is an abomination of Gadul, so
Yeah,
that's going to have flying as well.
yeah.
And
Matthias just
Matthias
sees the
is
writing on the
just
wall. He could maybe draw some things that keep him alive for a couple more turns, but just the lands versus a stream of spells on Dan's side spells the game for Dan A. So congratulations to Beat Down Bringer for winning this feature match, and we'll be back for our week 4 feature matches back on Mondays again. So see everybody then.